This is your news from no, we're not going to do Switzerland because then everybody wants to tie in like Davos and all of this stuff. But I already talked about it today. I talked about it for 15 minutes doing my orange hat routine, talking about QAnon and Donald Trump and how he was hired by the White Hats, the American Patriots, to be the only president that couldn't be bought off and that was going to sink the deep state. And then I went on to tell people that, well, he failed miserably. Not only did he not finish, as far as I know, I mean, I haven't been there, didn't finish the Mexican border, but he needs to build a wall on the Canadian border because what I wanted to explain to people was Justin Trudeau just announced that he's going to spend another $500 million giving away money to foreign nations so they can buy COVID vaccine. And then I brought up the point that Justin Trudeau and most Canadian leaders have no problem giving away Canadian taxpayer money, even when Canadian taxpayers are actually massively in debt because a long string of foreign nationals have been masquerading as world leaders and end up, always screwing over Canadians in particular, and Americans. I mean, the regular people of the world worldwide are screwed over, and we wonder, what the hell's going on? And what all I see is an unelected pope has more say on what goes on in the world than the elected. No, that's not really true. I mean, it's just that I don't trust the elections. I mean, it really came home during this last American election. It really came home to me. In the past, in Canada, there's an independent agency of the Canadian government that supervises the elections. And we were told that, I'm not sure if it was direct from QAnon, but it was definitely QAnon followers and supporters that said that the American military were monitoring American elections and that Donald Trump won. But there's been nothing has come out. And, Trump is gone. Trump was gone, and so all of this QAnon thing that everyone thought was very interesting turned out to be a total dud. But the message behind it was that there's quite a few people interested in seeing the end of the situation right now. And clearly, the American military is not interested in supervising American elections so that the American people can know that they're not being screwed by big technology companies that, have got these voting machines that no one has any way of looking to see what people vote. No, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. So I'm just going to call fake when it comes. Donald Trump was famous for his fake news, fake elections. It's taken me a long time to come to the conclusions that America, who was the democracy of the world, has fake elections. More and more, it's just you have no choice. You're told who you vote for, this clown or this clown. Red or blue, pick one. It doesn't not going to change anything for you. And there's still a lot of Americans who haven't got this yet. And then I'm talking about the giveaway of Canada to China. Canadian leader Brian Mulroney, you can lay that one, who was best friends with Ronald Reagan. So Reagan and Mulroney sold Canada to China because they decided with free trade to deindustrialize Canada. Canada used to make all kinds of things, things from fridges and stoves to cars to airplanes to farm tractors to toilet paper. All kinds of things were made in Canada, and they're not made anymore because Brian Mulroney and Ronald Reagan. Mulroney was a progressive conservative and Reagan was a Republican. They began the great sell-off of North America to China. Brian Mulroney got kickbacks for his deals on getting Airbus planes for Air Canada. So, he and his people were always in the news Sinclair Stevens, I think, was his first cabinet minister to have to quit because he was a crook and he was taking kickbacks. The whole Mulroney regime was corrupt. Mulroney is still Canadian and he still does whatever he wants. He's on the news. His daughter, Caroline, is a politician in Canada, and his son, the idiot, is doing like Entertainment Tonight for Canadians. It's just, it's unbelievable. No, not really. It's simply because every Canadian that I ever met was an idiot. Well, why? Pretty much Canadians, when they're about 16 years old, figured out that the country's fucked. And Canadians of 16, all they want to do is just do what 16-year-olds want to do, steal some beer and party. But when they look at the adults, they quickly come to the conclusion that the whole thing is a farce. The new Canadian conservative leader, his name is O'Toole. He is a tool. It doesn't have to be O'Toole. His name is simply Toole, which means idiot in another language. Toole. This O'Toole is about the dumbest, fattest jackass we've ever had as a leader of a party. And, you know, that's saying a lot because Justin Trudeau, most people thought that he was dumb. He's not really dumb. He comes across as dumb, and he's a great actor playing dumb. He's very much like his father. His father is Fidel Castro of Cuba. And everyone knows that Fidel Castro could talk for 3 hours under the hot Cuban sun. About the revolution. Well, thank God we don't have to listen to Justin Trudeau for 3 hours a day. But he's of the same veneer. He is a totalitarian, dictator kind of person, just like his father Fidel. And as for his fake father, Pierre Trudeau, the former Prime Minister of Canada, well, Justin has learned a few things about that as well. He's learned that his father was actually well, if you want to learn about Pierre Trudeau, that's a different lecture. In any event, America, north of the border, you might as well paint the Canadian maple leaf, paint it over, just paint it all red, and then put whatever that Chinese hammer and sickle communist flag is, because Canada is now China. China calls the shots. Whatever you think is going to happen in Canada, why don't you just call Beijing? Because Beijing tells Trudeau what to do, and they just told Trudeau, you're going to gift $500 million to various countries that we tell you. The Canadian taxpayers are never going to be able to pay off all of the debt. So if it's American banks that are holding Government of Canada bonds or whatever, well, your American banks are probably not that stupid, because the Canadian dollar is worthless. It should be convertible into renabis or whatever you call that, pesos or whatever you call that currency of China, because we can't, it's not being passed around. We're still using this plastic money here in Canada, but there's really nothing to buy in Canada anymore anyways. All the small businesses have gone out of business. There are no corner stores in Canada. Well, you have got a Circle K, I suppose, but you got to drive there. There's no independent business. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business was put out of business by Pierre Trudeau, and what else? Well, there's really nothing left here. I mean, if you come to a Canadian city, what's open? You have got enormous. You've got Loblaws, Galen Weston, who used to play polo with Prince Charles. And he's got an enormous monopoly called Shoppers Drug Mart. It's basically the only place you can buy drugs. So Shoppers Drug Mart, And then you've got Real Canadian Superstore. That's all the Weston and their, aristocracy from Britain. But, as far as small grocery stores, no, we don't have any. We've got another one that used to be called Safeway. It was owned by an American. And then he sold it to some other aristocrats from Britain that were based in eastern Canada, perhaps New Brunswick. And they're called now Safeway. If the sign's up, it's really owned by Sobeys. Now, Sobeys is a strange one because in the middle of Sobeys is the word obey. And then you just put an S, like a dollar sign in front and a dollar sign behind, and you've got Sobeys made out of the word obey. This reminds me of Brant is fucking my video up. He's trying to get me to tell you a word, and it didn't happen. And now the words have gone away. But yeah, that was basically what I was trying to tell you, that the small businesses, well, there's still Walmart. American Walmart is here. So there is nothing, no small businesses. The major shopping mall that had all the little stores, well, no one goes there anymore, and those businesses are quietly closing their doors forever. So the great communist takeover of America has begun. That is, well, you remember the stories, well, maybe you don't remember, but, from the 1970s and 80s, we heard that there was one store in your town in Russia, and there was nothing on the shelves. Brant is still interrupting me. So, who is Brant? Brant is a shit demon. It's a demonic artificial intelligence thing. Maybe it's not artificial. I can't tell you. All I know is Brant is a person, talks in English, has got a horrible personality. If you could think of anyone on your block who, no. Who could we compare him to? Hmm. Hmm. You're going to have to go to your penitentiary and go into the Life In for Life section. Somebody in there, yeah, somebody who is like a mass murderer, a serial rapist, somebody like that. That's Brant, okay? Brant is a serial rapist and murderer. He probably murders and rapes children of about 6 years of age. I'm not laughing. Being tortured by Brant, the serial killer rapist, and his best friend that's also from the same place, Clancy, two mass murder serial rapists. Yeah, that's basically those two, and I complain about them quite a bit. Demonic entities, and they haunt me. But, in the external world, they don't appear to do too much, but they are a reflection of the external world. And the simple fact that, the people who are the biggest serial killers and mass rapists usually are in the military. They're treated like heroes, but usually it gets covered up. But once in a while, you hear about these kind of people in the military. Canada had its famous colonel who flew jets and flew the Canadian Prime Minister Harper around. And it turns out that the colonel, when he was on his off days, he lived in Ottawa, and he was the Ottawa rapist. He would go and break into people's houses, do home invasions, and he would rape whatever women were in the house. And he was a colonel, and there's not a lot of generals in the Canadian Armed Forces. So if you're a colonel, that's like being a major general in the USA. It just is. The colonels are way more important. It's just because the way that things are. But this colonel, and I'm not making this up, this colonel is a killer because he's got a job called I got a 007, I can kill whoever I want. Just got to go and invent some kind of a war. Just send me someplace and I'll go and I'll kill anybody. It doesn't matter. And I'm a rapist too. And you put them together, and that's the kind of dangerous person that was flying the Canadian Prime Minister around and advising the Canadian Prime Minister on who to bomb. So, if you're expecting me to say that the military is full of heroes, I don't see it. I don't see it. I pretty much see people who take orders from demonic people like George W. Bush for shock and awe, and, endless bombs dropped on, people who aren't my color or something. So, USA, your biggest problem is your biggest problem. You have got demonic people who are running your government, and your government has got trillions of dollars invested in high-tech military hardware designed to, shock and awe the population. Plus, they've got enormous amounts of technology to surveil you to make sure you're a good little sheeple. Brant wants to know why I'm still talking, and the reason is because Brant likes to torture me, and if, Brant doesn't have his personal person like me to torture, then, he's just not going to go along with it. Does he control who surveils me, etc.? Yes, he does. Does he work for Pindar the Reptilian Draco? No, Brant works for Clancy, and Clancy works for Brant. They're not homosexuals, believe it or not. It's strange because they seriously only like to hang around with one another. But the idea that somehow these two like to get it on together, well, they do, but only like pulling wings off of butterflies, kind of thing that they would enjoy doing.